we're focused on growth.
First, inflation was transitory.
With everything coming to the head as far as supply chain issues,
it's about raising capital.
We were expecting credit crisis, credit freezes.
Once again, my name is John.
You did it again.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us here once again on the Middle Class Macro Podcast. My name is John, joined once again by my good friend and business partner, Steven. Today, we're talking about, well, just the craziness that we are watching unfold around us. As many of you know about FTX and in the crypto markets in a moment, a little bit about, state of inflation right now, the middle class, and what you can do during a recessionary time or bear market to generate revenue that isn't just, investing into things that and hoping they go up. So Steven, I think first we want to start out like everyone else is talking about, my God, crypto, FTX, what a crazy time watching this much value leave the market like this. I think it's really something that affects the majority of people, because think of how many people, especially middle class people right now, who've gotten some wealth off of crypto in the last couple of years. That's kind of been a big deal for a lot of us.
Oh yeah, like there've been so many people who, because not even the people like I mean, you can imagine the people who got in at the very beginning, how much they made. Like, I know they made a shit ton, but even the people who came in as soon as, like, let's say like 2 years ago, they still because like 2 years ago, let's say it was just just like BTC. That was like around what, $3,000 or something like that.
Yeah. When the lowest I got, was just above $3,000 still. I remember I started jumping in between 6 and 8 when it touched there during the original bull run during 2020 as well. And I mean, I think especially during that time, for how many of us really didn't have much, to be honest, you know what I mean? Not a ton of net wealth to my name, to have, crypto, be able to throw a little bit of money in and watch it run up the way it did, and all of a sudden see a much bigger number. I think that gave a big wealth effect to people in the middle class, specifically to our millennial demographic also, because obviously we're probably one of the main demographics investing into something like this.
Yeah, I figure like also seems like it's more like aimed right at us too, because I mean, but I mean, oh, shoot, sorry, I lost my train of thought already. but yeah, like even with where BTC is right now, people still are really, you know what I mean? They're still they'd still be in the green if they invested like 2 years ago. So I mean, but yeah, like
exactly.
but yeah, seeing it shoot up the way it did, especially after the halving in was it 2021, when it shot going as high as, I believe it was 69,000, like just like basically just below fucking 70K.
To watch something change exponentially like that. A lot of people, and once again, the middle class, the retail investor, the average person, I think there was a lot of wealth effect that was felt during that time from things like Bitcoin specifically, Ethereum, the crypto markets in general. Obviously, like even think of like Doge, the runs up that happened in Dogecoin. God. And then think about even things like GameStop, AMC, Bed Bath and Beyond, all the different stocks that also had these crazy run-ups as well. It was really a lot of retail investors, average people like you and me, who were the ones who really came up big on that. It gave a real effect of people feeling like they actually were living a higher quality life than they actually had in front of them, especially in today's market with it.
Yeah. And I mean, with how easily I don't know if that's the right way to phrase it, but I'll go with that. How easily accessible it is for the middle class person, like it felt like it was a way for almost like the entire middle class to like close that wealth gap a little bit.
Exactly. Remember when they had the whole like Doge to $1 thing going on there? And I mean, it was like a kind of a pile-on effect. Like if we all buy in, it will all run up. And obviously, we know what kind of rug pulls come from those situations. But that was really like this whole, like, it almost did feel like kind of like a philosophy of like, if we're going to get rich, this is how we're going to do it, is by investing into I mean, really one of the few avenues that the average person has left, which is crypto, where you can throw in the
Mhm.
amount that you afford can put in.
Yeah, and in a sense, it brought it brought a sense of solidarity amongst the communities, crypto
Mhm.
community, and like even the average investor who started getting into it because like you felt like you were really a part of something big or something that could become big. It felt
Right.
like it was almost like it almost felt like a fuck you to the government and the USD because
Yeah.
it was what I
Oh
mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. You can't control this. You can't tax this. You know what I
Mhm,
mean? Like it did feel like a digital version of precious metals in a sense that, it was like,
mhm.
this is mine. Uh,
Yeah.
who knows what the future holds for cryptocurrencies and the ability for people to do as they please with them.
Yeah.
Certainly with FTX right now, that's we have to imagine that the laws about uh, crypto being a security and what's allowed and not allowed is going to change significantly, probably 2023. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to watch some legislation even try and pass before the year is over at this rate, because this is a
Mhm.
large market cap we're watching disintegrate before our eyes, basically.
Yeah, even Janet Yellen warned that there could be like to watch out for heavy regulation for against the crypto. I mean, and they can use the last 2 years alone as a reason to
Yeah,
do it, just because of how volatile it was. Like, no currency
right.
should be that volatile. Like, I mean, look at the USD. Like, sure, it had that shot up and
Mhm.
stuff like that, but like, it's been relatively staying until recently, like between
Right,
that 110, 113 range,
right. But
and
even
then like,
then, that fluctuation is nothing that in comparison to like how cryptocurrencies have
mhm,
moved. Like,
yeah,
yeah, the
like to
dollar
a
is
point where it's like
certainly.
extremely almost like you have to be very you have to have nerves of steel. Like you have to not care about what's going to
Mhm.
happen, basically,
you
just because.
you you might have to have what they say are hands of diamonds, as I've
Yes.
heard the kids say. The diamond hands, definitely that movement. That's really where like how you said, like there's kind of like a solidarity in crypto. I do kind of feel that, because there really was like a real movement in that. Like I said, like the solidarity of, diamond hands, you
Mhm.
hold the bag on the way up and the way down. And
Yeah.
and to this day, there are still people who are dead. I remember it was a guy who was once about our age, I think, his mid-30s, who was a Dogecoin millionaire, and then he held, and now he's no longer a Dogecoin millionaire. I just thought it
Mhm.
was so interesting that, and he seemed unaffected by that. He was like almost more
Yeah.
proud of the fact that he held through that. And that's so, what an
Mhm.
interesting way to look at an investment. You know what I mean? It's
Was that
more
the dude who was
ideological.
leading the Doge to a dollar movement?
I I wouldn't be surprised. I think that might have been the same guy, honestly, which
Mhm.
does make sense why he would push for Doge or a dollar, since
Yeah.
that's his main investment. But yeah,
Like
it's a real
I
thing.
can, yeah, I can understand the movement, but when they started rationalizing it with because Elon Musk is going to make an appearance on SNL, it's going to happen. Like, oh gosh, okay, no.
Yeah. No, yeah,
Like,
that's
how can we not see that? That should not be a reason for anything to act the way you want it. Like,
right.
really, Elon Musk making an appearance on SNL to help? Okay, okay,
It's
no.
kind of wild how much I mean, like, I don't believe it's actually true. I think it's just some correlation, but how much it appears that Elon moved markets and everything. Like, I swear
Mhm.
to God, like that people will claim Elon Musk responsible for so much moves and so many things. Um, but I mean, his involvement in Doge, probably more than anything, though, is like,
Mhm.
I can imagine the SEC bringing that up
Yeah.
specifically as like, hey, so this is what we call a pump and dump that you
Hmm.
just did. But if it's not technically a security in 20, I mean, must know. I'm sure his lawyers let him know right away that if he was doing something that's going to get himself sued, they would have stopped
Hmm.
him right away, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure he saw that. I'm surrounded by. He keeps himself surrounded by compliance people just in case, because he knows. Just what I mean.
Right.
But I mean, like the whole thing with the market moving, like because of Musk, like there is a bit of truth to that because you got to imagine how many like even institutional investors are heavily invested in Tesla. Like how much of their
Right.
balance sheet has
Is
Tesla on
is
it. You
just
know what I mean?
it's kind of nuts. Yeah, Tesla stock is
Mhm.
lately with how much has been going on, it's almost like been forgotten about lately. But I mean, like Tesla used to just be like the daily Tesla and Apple. It's just like you couldn't
Mhm.
get away from it
Yeah.
every day. You'd
Remember,
hear about
Apple was
them
holding
like
up the SPY by itself. Like,
right.
no, the Nasdaq by itself. Like, the
Mhm.
Nasdaq was relying on Apple to keep
Apple.
hold.
It's
And look
the
what happened.
FANG stocks, right? The FANG stocks are basically what were holding up the Nasdaq at that point.
Facebook, Apple,
Um,
Netflix,
Netflix
Google,
and Google, yeah. Which or there's the different
or
combinations of
Nvidia.
them.
I don't
I
know,
mean, Nvidia
but
stock
they're all
has
tech
them
stocks
pretty.
basically. Yeah, but it's
Yeah,
still
all
like
tech stocks. Yeah, I mean,
you
yeah, I think it's kind of
indexes should
nuts,
not be
honestly.
that heavy reliant
Mm,
on four stocks. You know what I'm
that's
saying?
yeah, that is what most people's portfolios are. It's really just a combination of those major companies in the tech industry. And I think that's because I know we touched about on this a little bit on last episode, and I think obviously, this affects the middle class more than I think more than anything is these tech companies in particular in this recessionary environment we're going into. You're seeing the massive layoffs that they're having right now,
Mhm.
the resizing. I mean, first of all, there's the impact to the individual person who got let go because that's someone who was probably upper middle class, realistically, who is
Yeah.
now, who knows? I mean, best of luck to each
Hopefully,
one
they
of
got
them.
on back on
Absolutely.
their feet like quickly, but
Yeah.
still.
You wish the best to them, but it's difficult for sure through something like that. But then the
Mhm.
changing of the landscape with these tech companies, there's no longer cheap money. Cheap money seems to be stopping. So the tech companies are pivoting. And I feel like crypto is so interconnected with just the tech industry in general. You know what I mean? It seems to pivot with it. It all kind of moves in this it's not causality necessarily, but definitely correlation seems to happen between each of these things when moves like this happen.
Yeah, it makes me wonder how many tech companies actually have like crypto on their balance sheets and shit like that.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
be surprised if more of them had than more than they let on, honestly.
Mhm.
I'm sure it's not Michael Sayer levels over at
100%.
has anyone checked on him? Is he okay? I hope so. He's probably having a rough time right now with well, he got liquidated a long time ago with where Bitcoin is right now. That's for sure. Because I didn't look over the weekend. I'm not sure if is it still hovering around like the 16,000-17,000 range?
I believe so. Let me check real quick.
Yeah, it's one of those things I don't want to make a claim, but a half hour ago we could have just watched a major drop or gain in crypto, and
Yeah.
I may not even
Oh,
know because
wow.
I try and turn off notifications now.
It's at 15.9 right now.
Wow, it's below 16. Oh
Yeah.
wow. Wow, we are moving in some real territory. I'm
Yeah.
uh, obviously, we encourage everyone to do their own research and to look into what's the proper investment for them. But Steve, if I were to ask you, what price are you personally looking to get back in at? Is there a price on Bitcoin right now that you would be like, yeah, that'd be a great time to actually throw some back in?
Tell you the truth, with where it's at right now, like it seems to be like for the longest time, it seemed to be like in consolidation mode. It was staying in that like between that 19 to 21 grand range.
Yeah, that was why. Yeah, bounce up and
And
down there. Yeah.
I thought like it would stay around there and eventually like if it got to a certain like if I were to wait, I'd wait until so it's hard to say like it
Of
depends on how
course.
long this is going it depends on how long of a timeline you have like because of a timeline there is because like basically the whole spike up is dependent on interest rates and the dollar like interest rates
Mhm.
going up and the dollar going down
Right.
and like the dollar's not going down as heavily as people were going to think
Mhm.
and you know interest rates are constantly being manipulated
Yeah, right now,
so
especially.
so I mean I figure if this keeps going on I figure like I'd wait until 10 grand.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds reasonable. Once again, we're not making a price target for anyone else, but yeah, personally,
Yeah.
I somewhere in there I was actually saying about 12 in my mind. Felt
Yeah.
comfortable to me.
Yeah, about 10 to
Um,
12 sounds about good. Yeah.
yeah, about good, honestly. like, and who knows, we could even see it go down to, $3,000 again or something like that. That would be kind of wild, honestly.
Yeah.
A lot of this, obviously, too, I think it's hard to really predict the next move of crypto, because the next move of crypto, I think, is going to involve SEC intervention. So that's going to change the landscape. You know what I mean? The rules are going to change about this, which could totally change the whole, technical analysis of Bitcoin, and how and what made sense before may not make sense in a new rule set with that.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, because well, even now, sometimes some of it doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
Let's
I
call it
mean,
crypto,
no, you're
because
right.
when it comes down to it, there's no like, they say it's a safe haven.
Certainly,
But like the
have trouble with
volatility
that.
says otherwise.
Yeah, I God, what that just made me think about what Latin American country was it that had their national currency in Bitcoin?
And not Venezuela. Hold
Because if I recall right, I remember seeing something today about their Bitcoin was also held at FTX, which is something, once again, we would definitely have to look into a little bit
El
further.
Salvador.
El Salvador, yeah, that was it. And I was reading an
FTX,
article.
really?
Yeah, so supposedly, and once again, we'll have to look into it and see if that unfolds. But imagine what that means for the entire country. I mean, talk about a change in your entire life overnight. Overnight, you know?
I mean, if FTX is insolvent, that means the country is pretty much insolvent.
It's all right, and that's just, it's crazy to think about the domino and ripple effect this is going to have. And this is why sometimes I make a point to people with, like, because especially with us being into finance and interested in economics and whatnot, they was like, oh, what's the good trade? What's the good, where should you put your money right now? And I was like, see, the problem is we're so used to this ongoing bull market from this, honestly, endless money printing, for one, and then just like the rollback of rule sets that have allowed, the constant gaining of a profit at the cost of honestly, the average person. But that seems to be changing. We're entering like what feels like a paradigm shift of sorts. The new bear market's coming in, a depression, either deep recession or depression we are entering into, in record inflation, obviously. So I mean, like, the factors are all stacked kind of against the average person. So I feel like right now, making the investment that's like, oh, the safe, you just want to retain, your wealth and status of life. It's not even about making your gains right now. This is a time to really come up with, I find, a side hustle, a business, something that generates revenue, rather than getting the hot trade, or like the big come up. You know what I mean? I don't think this is the come up season. This is grind season. Grind season, I think means time to go build something instead of just swinging for something like that. So I think that's really next move.
Term.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think a business is definitely like one of the more, because regardless of what happens in markets, you can always go out and generate revenue if you have a product people want, or you have a service people need. And I think that's something that a lot of people, especially in our generation too, because I think we were taught, we go to college, go get a corporate job, you get, you save up for retirement. You know what I mean? You just go through the cycle of things, and that's no longer really viable for us. So I think entrepreneurship really is the next step for, the middle class people to maintain lifestyle, and us specifically as millennials to our adult life. We're not going to be able to ride the corporate train the way that past generations were, I think.
No, and I mean, it's been a proven method for fucking centuries, if you think about it.
Right.
Like the whole middle class, go to school, get a job, work till you retire. I think I mean, that's pretty much, that's not a thing. That's not really that old. Like, it's been a normal thing since after World War II or something like that.
Yeah. Post World War II America. Yeah.
So in a sense, it was a little bit of an experiment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And it's like, can people do, I hate to say it, like, do the bare minimum and still have still be able to live decent lifestyles. Not
Right.
exactly wealthy, but like still be able to, enjoy themselves
Yeah.
and whatnot. And in the beginning, that was the case.
Hmm.
Like for a while, and it lasted for a long while. But like now, that like because of what happened in 1971, 1972,
Right.
um,
Basically taking us off the gold
things
standard. Yep.
yeah, things changed, and
Hmm.
um, they like basically like not like the only way to really get just the only way to really stay, I say, stay middle class is like
Hmm.
figuring out your own path into entrepreneurship. Like that's like having a side hustle. Like obviously still keep your 9 to 5.
Of course,
That's
you
going to
got
be
to bring
very
in,
important.
got to
Yeah, you
bring
got
in
to bring in
revenue right now.
something. Yeah, you got
Yeah.
to bring
You
in
know what I mean?
revenue, build capital. But
Hmm.
if you have the time, think of us work on a side hustle. That's very like in this day and age, there's so many things you can do. Anything from like everything from like doing surveys
Hmm. Right. Right.
to
Yeah. People.
even
Yeah. Actually, legitimately. Yeah.
or
Do
to
surveys. Though.
yeah, doing surveys or start a simple business, like one that's pretty big right now, no matter where you are, where you live, is probably power washing.
Yes, power. That's funny. Funny you should say that. One of my business partners in the Fix Pros, which is my phone repair company I started, he runs a lawn care business, and he's recently just expanded out to power washing. And he was telling me that the clientele for that is picking up like crazy. People are
Hmm.
always looking to if I mean, really, it's mostly he said, baby boomer generation who have homes. They don't want to do this and go out there and clean. They'd rather pay a guy to come
Yeah,
out, and this it's a
they're at that
booming thing right
retirement
now.
age, and so I
Hmm.
mean, they have that retirement money, so they can
Exactly.
afford to shell out for someone else to do that work for them. So I mean,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and that's another
Do a
thing
little
with
bit
the whole
later.
boomer thing. Like the boomer generation is getting ready to retire, and I believe
Yeah.
about 20 to 30% of them own businesses.
Yes. Yeah.
And like
So
eventually
I know
they're
you're
going to
getting at.
want to give up, they're going to want to sell their businesses. So that's another thing to look into. Look into buying a small business.
Yeah, I do recall that. I remember listening to Erica Williams talk about that specifically about buying businesses off of basically these boomers who, they're done. They've done the game. They run their lives. Their kids are gone. They just want to enjoy the last
Yeah.
part of life. And but the thing is that you have an ongoing operation. Um, they talk about how real estate isn't liquid. A business is probably the least liquid thing you'll have. It's great, revenue builder, but my God, getting your
Mm,
money out of it to like, move on is not the easiest thing
not
to
the
do.
easiest thing.
And there will not be the there will not be the corporate. I don't think there's gonna be as many like corporate buyout type things happening to these mom and pop type things. I think at this point, a lot of them don't really have a way out. I think that's a great idea for a lot of people coming up now, purchasing a
Mhm.
business that's already established and maybe modernizing it a bit, because I would imagine
Yeah.
that's what all a lot of these baby boomer businesses really need is just some modernization.
Yeah.
Definitely speak from experience on that one. My parents run a locksmith business, and modernizing it was the major contention point between me and my dad for sure
Yeah.
about
Wow.
back and forth on that.
Hmm. I mean, because sometimes, people get to a point where they're, as I say, stuck in their old ways, but they're just used to doing things a certain way because
Hmm.
it's always worked for them.
Right, exactly. Exactly. And I always give a little bit of slack to boomers on this, because I also understand that like very few generations have like an entire fundamental change of how everything works in their
Mhm.
lifetime. The boomers were the last generation pre-computer internet, what we live in today.
Yeah.
um they I kind of get why they don't understand this stuff. I just wish they trusted us millennials, the ones they raised, a little more to take the reins on that then. But that's a whole
Yeah.
nother conversation.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah. Oh man. But yeah, no, that's something I think that is a real viable option. Buying a business off of a boomer who's looking to retire, or I mean, starting your own is honestly not as hard as people think. There is a
Mm.
lot of red tape to it. I mean, there's a lot of like filing an LLC, especially here in the state of California, was a lot of headache, and it did cost like $800 and all that.
Mhm.
But, at the end of the day, like it made sense. When people start understanding things like write-offs, I think that is one of the most powerful concepts that you can really have, especially during like, if you want to talk about something that's recessionary proof or bear market proof, the ability to write off your expenses, because
Mhm.
you need things. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
the digits are great. You know what I mean? I like seeing a high number in my bank account. I more care about getting the things I need.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you can just do that and then not have to worry about paying taxes, I mean,
Mhm.
that's saving a dollar saved is a dollar earned. That I think we forget that
Yeah.
sometimes. I think we very
Yeah,
much
a lot
forget
of people
that.
don't realize that's one thing people need to realize when they do start a business or buy a business.
Mm,
That's going to be your biggest. That's going to be your biggest expense is
absolutely.
taxes.
Yes. Yes, it will. I have started learning that one as well. And it is
Mhm.
well, now it's kind of like, well, let's go buy things then. You know what I mean? I guess they want us to go
Yeah,
stimulate the economy. So let's go buy all that stuff.
I mean that's pretty
Uh
much what the tax laws are made for. They're made
yeah,
for,
yeah.
I have to say, stimulating the well, not stimulating the economy, but doing stuff to help the government in a sense, so they don't
Right.
have to fucking do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. No, like if you're out there, hiring people on, causing transactions, money's moving, things are getting done. That is
Mhm.
the goal. I think the problem is that, so because especially once again, our generation specifically, and we've always talked about this, was not taught anything about
Mhm.
finance, personal finance, entrepreneurship, any of this tax law, any of this stuff really. And I think that's really what people have a disconnect on, is that all that's why we look at the tax system and kind of like, like, God, I hate this. Like, why is it so ridiculous? It's because it was actually meant for all of us to go be entrepreneurs and go to business for ourselves. And you know what I mean? If we all have the ability to write off what we need to be productive in the world, that really gives a lot of freedom to people to be able to choose their life and actually, build and grow. Whereas like the tax system right now, just when you're an employee, it's just like, look at this chunk of money the government takes from my check every fucking
Mhm.
week. Why is there still potholes on my street? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
come on
exactly.
now.
And like, there's something, I don't know. There's just like a different feeling when like over getting a tax refund, getting a tax refund over having to not having to pay taxes at all.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. If the average person I think is earning
A lot
like
of times you don't
40,
even get what you pay
50K.
back in full.
Right. Right. You know what I mean? Exactly. But like, I mean, most people who are making, your average person makes 40, 50K a year, they get a tax refund. To them, they see this chunk go out of their check. They get a chunk back at the end of the year. They just play this game back and forth. They don't understand that like you can go like now you can write off so much. You write off your gas because you know what I mean. You're driving for work. You know what I mean.
Mhm.
You can write. You need something for the business that you want. You need a new computer. You can write that
Right
off. You
off.
know what I mean? Exactly. That
You
is
having
so
dinner
powerful.
with a colleague and you happen to talk
Yes.
business, right off.
Write off. Exactly. It's all a big game. And I think the real crime is that we're just not taught this at all growing up. We're not taught this in school.
Mhm.
To be honest, it really took the internet building like these like financial almost subcultures, really getting this message out there. Really interesting
Yeah.
that it actually spawned this. You know what I mean? Like the financial literacy is almost like a rebellious subculture now. You know, I think of that like
Yeah,
with
actually,
like
yeah.
George Gammon a little bit. Rebel
'Cause
capitalists and whatnot. Even
yeah,
Robert Kiyosaki. You know what I mean? Like,
because I keep thinking it's like because of the algorithm, I keep thinking
mhm.
that like because it's popping up for me a lot. So I'm thinking, okay, yeah, a lot of people are now like seeing what's going on and open their eyes and learning about this stuff.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, get back into the real world. Like, oh, fuck it.
Nope.
It's
Nope.
just a very small group of people that are figuring this out right now. And even then,
Right.
a lot of people like don't actually have it all figured out yet, or like they have it misconstrued in some manner.
Right. Of course. Yeah. Having a full grasp of this it's an incredibly deep topic that the fact that like once again because we're not even given a baseline knowledge in this leaving our education system, I think the education system has failed us because there's really
Mhm.
very few things in life more important from like a core academic skill than understanding the basics of economics.
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean? It's so core to day-to-day life. to understanding why you do things and what's going on around you. And I think that's just something that like why we're even doing this right now, because it's so hard to watch everyone struggle and not know what to do. And it's like there's an option. It's not the one you would hope it is.
Yeah. And with the school system, like even that is in its infancy, or not infancy, even that's like a bit of an experiment too, because like it's
Yeah,
fairly
true.
obvious that like it's not meant to produce uh entrepreneurs and achievers.
Right.
It's meant to produce cogs.
Or as George Carlin said, obedient workers. They want
Mhm.
obedient workers, people smart enough to run the machines and fill out the paperwork, but just dumb enough to accept the fact that they're losing a quality of life year after year and don't do a fucking thing about it. God bless that man. I miss him. But yeah, that really is it. And I think people don't realize too is that everyone's looking for the next GameStop run up, the next Bitcoin boom, because in this gamified world, in the last 40 years especially, being an entrepreneur is cool, but putting money into the S&P or something like that and getting massive returns has definitely been better, you know what I mean, because you don't have to
Yeah.
work for it. But I think that tide is shifting with this new market. Being an entrepreneur really is your only way to achieving what we probably have as a middle class lifestyle now, because very few of us are going to make enough money at a corporate job, a six-figure role, just like we talked about with tech companies laying people off right now. That's a large chunk of the upper middle class people who are making the six-figure range, keeping up with cost of living. A lot of them are getting cut right now. That's going to shrink the middle class significantly.
And that industry was known to be like the secure industry. Like, you got a position in that industry,
Yeah,
you had a lot of job security. And look what's like,
exactly.
like how many like, so recently Facebook laid off 11,000 people, was it? Like
Which one
13%
you
of their
say?
workforce. Facebook or Meta, sorry,
Facebook.
Meta.
Yeah, yeah. Meta, whatever. Facebook,
Whatever you want to call them.
whatever we're calling it today, the
But
Zuck.
like,
Um,
and even before these recent layoffs, like over the summer, they let off like thousands of people too. So it's like,
right. It's
yeah.
it's people. There's just been money's been so cheap. Tech is just constantly like, because that's also the thing about tech too, because you're able to get so much more out of it when like technology improves. You know what I mean? Like you've seen the explosion of social media networks. You even like the technology, your phone, your computer. It just seems like it's been on this exponential rise, and people
Mhm.
really thought that was infinite. Like we had reached like the infinite return based, on the technology that we have. And I think we're starting to see right now that like all good things come to an end.
Yeah. Mhm. Oh
That's
yeah,
unfortunate.
Facebook used to be this ad and marketing juggernaut,
Yeah.
and like once that started dying down, like I think that's why he pivoted to the whole metaverse thing. That's why he
Right.
became obsessed
Right.
with it and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
that's what, and because of that, it's turning into Yahoo 2.0, where
Yeah.
yeah,
Facebook
just
does feel
bad
like the new
decision after
Yahoo of
bad
this generation.
decision, and investors are getting pissed. And
Right.
yeah,
It, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to watch. Kind of like how you said like Yahoo, Facebook almost does feel like it's going to be like the Yahoo of this. Like, I guess this is like the equivalent like a .com bubble of this generation's run. Because Yahoo is no longer used for their search algorithm. Basically, essentially nobody uses that anymore. It's just kind of just a media news, whatever kind of website. I feel like
hmm
Facebook's going to become that with the social media network. It's no longer going to be like a real, like no one's going to use it for that anymore, like the normal social media
yeah.
network or what they're aiming for. It would just be a platform that exists for
hmm
whatever they keep up with at that point. But
Because
it's
a
all
lot of
moving
people have
away.
moved to TikTok, so I mean,
Yeah, TikTok is the juggernaut right now. I I I funny enough you say that. Francis actually called me like a week ago and basically gave me a whole rant about how I'm like I am messing up by not getting on TikTok with my content, because that really is the new marketplace to hit things.
I mean, he
And
probably has a point there, because
he's absolutely right. No, he's completely right. I just don't want
yeah,
to
we should probably be
deal with
doing it,
it.
like our stuff with, yeah.
Yeah, we should be, but I don't want to
mm.
do it, man. It is what it is, but that's it. The marketplace is changing so quickly. It's, Facebook used to be like the place to really sell I mean, I think the thing that's going to survive actually out of Facebook is the marketplace, though. Because if there's
Mm.
any place that I think that once again, average person, middle class person is actually really coming up on the internet's ability to resell,
Yeah.
it's like Gary V's wet dream, but it's like, a mom who has, 3 kids and does not have time to, get a second job or find her way. She can just sell some stuff on Facebook Marketplace and at least
Mhm.
have something coming in. I really
Because
think
I don't
that's going
even
to be what
think,
survives Facebook.
because I think that's pretty much taken the place of Craigslist at this point.
Yeah, Craigslist seems pretty much dead in comparison, which,
Yeah.
Craigslist very much is the internet. It feels internet 1.0 still, as we're
Yeah,
entering the
I think the
3.0
layout's still the
area.
same and everything, dude.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It is absolutely. I cannot believe that the reason that we work together, Stephen, is because I
It's
applied for a
Craigslist.
job off of that. I
That's how
applied for a job
that's
off of Craigslist back in 2012, and that's
that's
how
how
we
I
met each
applied.
other.
That's how I applied. I
Oh,
saw a listing that said adult content. I was like, oh shoot, I have experience in adult content. Why not
right.
apply?
Why not? This sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Right. Oh God. But yeah, no, Meta, I think is going to be that new thing. I think the marketplace will survive, and I think the social media will probably die out of it. People are
Mhm.
moving away to like, things like TikTok, where it's like scrolling kind of content, scrolling video kind of content, the short form content, which I think it's interesting because I heard talk about how the algorithm's so different for the Chinese children and the rest of the world, Western world, whatever, that looks at TikTok, and that
Mhm.
you can really see it as most American children, if you ask them what they want to be, they want to be an influencer because that's the only thing they see is really like, oh, that's so cool. And they must be, making so much money. Little do they know. But I mean, like that's what's seen as like the real career path to kids nowadays. Whereas in China, it's an astronaut. Most kids want to be an
Really?
astronaut still, which yeah, that was like a survey of Chinese kids. They wanted to be astronauts. And I was like,
Chinese kid right now.
oh, huh?
So I kind of want to have a Chinese kid right now.
And you know what I mean? Like that kid, but they're fed content that
That's up
makes them
though.
want to like, be an engineer and learn science and stuff and
Mhm.
math. And here it's like, look at this, me doing this milk drinking challenge. Yeah, I'm like,
Oh my god!
that's
Let me prank. Let me do this. Like, oh gosh, yeah,
it's bad. But
it
it's
is,
crazy
dude.
too, because that's really also again your average person. One of the few things that your average person's actually coming up on right now is influencer economy, which is a real thing now, which is nuts that that's a real thing. But
Mhm.
the like normal people are able to make some real money online creating content. And I wonder how far this will go, like as a like um I don't know, just like an entire industry. You know what I mean? Like I wonder if how this responds to like the bear market we enter into.
Mm.
What happens to the influencer economy that we have?
It's gonna be interesting to see because like the thing that they relied on most were companies, marketing and ad departments. Basically like
Yeah,
that was their main source of income. Basically
right.
doing these sponsorships for these companies and
Hmm.
stuff. But with all of them cutting back on that, and like
Yeah.
I feel like if it keeps up for too long and they don't like try to push product, like I think it could really affect the unless they figure I don't know unless they figure out some way to adapt. I think it could really like lead to a bit of a drop in the influencer.
I guess I could see a lot of them getting shook out from the change that's going to happen here. Because
Mhm.
once again, like, we're talking about building a business as something that's to do during a recession, a bear market that tends to keep up and able to keep you afloat. A lot of these influencers have a solid side hustle that needs to be converted to a full business, but they
Mhm.
haven't taken those steps yet. And this is where they're going to fall off because they aren't going to get the same write-offs. They aren't going to get the same incentives. They're not going to be able to do business credit to make moves to say improve their studio, and they'll use their own personal credit, you know what I mean, or something like that as a comparison.
Yeah.
That this is where I really think a big move, because anyone can become an influencer now. You pick up your phone, you speak into it confidently, and hopefully you don't say anything that gets you canceled. And
Yeah.
if you can do all that, you can do all that, you can make some money. And if you can make some money, you can make a business. If you can make a business, you can start getting write-offs when you do it right. So I think that really is, I think that's really a lot of people's best bet through the next 3 to 5 years, personally, whatever you choose as your business. But I think that really is the smartest move most people can make right now in their life.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They definitely just like now's the time to take the time to figure out what that's going to be.
Yeah.
And like there's like, I mean, like we talked about many times, there's so many things that you can get into that
Mhm.
could like even just doing stuff around your neighborhood, whether it's like
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
think about what you used to do as a kid, like yard work.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The lawn care business for my business partner exploded. Heavenly's Lawn Care is definitely got a large clientele base for, only the amount of time he's been in business, he has solid clientele now. It's, I think that's one of the things that once we talked about too with boomers, having businesses that they need to let go of. Boomers also have skill sets that most of us millennials have not adapted to. Because I'm not
Hmm.
gonna lie, I'm not the best at fixing things around my house. You know what I mean? There's something wrong,
Hmm.
like I don't know, an appliance or my plumbing. Oh boy, I don't know how great of a job I do on that. But that's really if you can do any of that, or if you're willing to go, learn, that's a great path for people right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And with YouTube, dude, like
Mhm.
basically you can turn yourself into a handyman within a
Right.
few weeks. Like all you just get the certifications and stuff like that, and dude, like you could probably like work at an apartment complex or something like that, or even like
Right.
work with a property management company or something like that, or even
Mhm.
yeah, or not
You
work
get your
with,
chops
but
up.
like associate with them or something like that. So you're still
Right.
employed by them, but you're like running your own business. Just like yeah.
Right. No, I
Mhm.
mean, that would be the ideal situation for sure. You know what I mean? To get a consistent clientele like that and be able to,
Mhm.
charge your own wage like that. I think it's something that a lot of people who don't know what to do, if you don't have something that you can think of right now, consider a trade, because
Yeah.
anyone can learn a trade. It's just a matter of getting the baseline, finding the right teachers, which, like you said, YouTube and the internet has really given the ability to find people who can be great teachers to you without even
Mhm.
meeting you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, really going out and just doing the right steps of like getting a business established and getting it off the ground. And I think people will find it's much more fulfilling than working your corporate 9 to 5 job, which has no fulfillment at all.
And to add
Zero.
on to learn a trade thing, like if there's any teenagers watching this,
Mm.
like if you can go to a vocational school,
Yeah.
like I
Yeah.
don't know if there's a lot of them left. Either there's like I think there's like one or two out here, but like definitely if you can go to a vocational school, learn a trade
Cool.
there, and
Right.
that way you'll be right. That way you'll be ready right out of high school.
That's huge. I think being minded towards that, because there's one kid at my day job, because I work in IT, and like he's 18, so he was fresh out of high school, very smart kid,
Mm.
still a kid, I mean, like when it's not about a computer, sometimes he drives me insane. But when it comes to like, working with like our Sophos, he's like our Sophos specialist. So like our firewall antivirus software kind of thing. He's very, very well versed in all that. I think, a lot of these kids, they can move up real fast too, because there's not a lot of competition amongst the youth. You know what I mean? Like a lot of kids really aren't doing much. They aren't learning things now. They aren't trying to go
Or they're
out and,
focused on
and
trying
get
to
a
be an
skill set.
influencer.
Exactly. They see that as their only real option. But it's also one of the things where if you're coming of age was in the late 2000s, you know what I mean? Like the 2008 would be the economic collapse.
Mm.
Well, when the recession hit, you have to think a lot of the Zoomer generation probably started being born around the late 90s. So
Yeah.
around the '08, at the oldest, a lot of them are about, 10 years old, something like that.
Hmm.
So that's 10 years old, that's probably when you're just starting to pay attention to what's happening to the world around you. And then from 10 to, whatever age they are now, they have not seen a traditional path make sense. You know what I mean? Like, think of how crazy of a world for anyone who's only experienced the two that like the post recession world basically. But none of this makes any sense anymore. It's like it's all been backwards for a while now.
Yeah. I mean, for
Right.
the longest, like, I mean, like nothing makes sense. You had a huge recession hit, but for some reason, 2 years later, all of a sudden we're in a boom or a booming
Right.
economy, or recovering economy that's about to become a booming economy. Like,
Right. Exactly.
and
Like
yeah.
how? And nothing improved, you know what I mean? The average person was still not making any money at their job. You didn't see
Hmm.
people becoming like new industries really starting out here or anything like that. You know,
Hmm.
the Cantillon effect, which is what they always call it, you know what I mean? The money coming out and just giving you that wealth effect kind of feeling. You know, money printer go burr, you know, credit becomes cheap. It's just like, and you see people make moves in that environment that don't make sense in a realistic one. And
Hmm.
I really worry for people who like learned all their lessons, which is like tying it back to FTX. He's the Sam who was running it. He's about 28 years old, which I believe is like the tail end of millennial, but still, he basically came of age right during that as well. You know, became really like
Hmm.
aware of everything in this post financial recession world where credit is cheap and you can make moves like that. This is what happens, you know what I mean, when we don't have sound fundamentals to the game that we live in, essentially,
Yeah,
of the economy.
pretty much. I mean, he pretty much, with what he did, he pretty much almost became his own Federal Reserve. Or
Yeah,
not him, but
right.
like FTX almost became their own Federal Reserve.
Yeah, that's exchange. Yeah,
Like what the hell? Like, yeah, no.
yeah. You
So,
know,
like,
when it all seems like a giant game to you, right? You treat it as such.
yeah. Well, I mean, him and the dude from Binance are pretty much
Yeah,
treating it like it's all like it is all a game. Like it's just a little friendly sparring session between the two of them.
right. You know what I mean?
And I'm like, are you
Who's got
kidding
more
me?
money to throw?
Yeah,
Th-
this is like, and it's like there's a lot of innocent people's money at stake right here, and they're not like rich people. They're
mhm.
freaking like they're basically like making money like us, or if even.
Right, exactly. You know, and like I said, this all ties back to the average middle class person who, you know, maybe they made 5 or 10 grand in crypto. You know, for someone of like who makes 50 grand a year, that's huge. Like you're
Mhm.
like that changes your whole life. You know what I mean? It's not like the guy who has a few mil and it's like, oh, I lost 100 grand to crypto. It's like, oh, well, you know, you'll still be fine, the grand scheme of it all. Maybe you
Yeah,
can even write off a loss or something on. But like, yeah, to like the average person who had that effect of like feeling like, oh, I made some money in crypto, and now to be like, oh, I can't get my money out. I mean,
yeah.
think of what that does to you psychologically. You will never trust something like this again,
Mm-mm.
ever, ever, if you get caught in something like that.
Yeah, and like with the sentiment like that growing, most of the population, like it's only a matter of time before like think like crypto does get heavily regulated, like they keep talking about, like
Mm-hmm.
and like we can only blame ourselves, or like, well, I don't know, not us ourselves, but like, well, no, I guess yeah, people in general just for getting too reckless. Well, no, not
Yeah.
people in general, like no, the
I mean,
oh,
there has to be some
everyone from the
recklessness.
influencers and celebrities, whoever pushed this, like just
Right.
like basically talking people into getting reckless with this without even talking about the possible consequences of basically gambling.
You know, there is a lot of, you know, this is that whole thing about like, as much as I hate watching government regulation come into things as it tends to mostly just ruin things, and you know, unfortunately,
Hmm.
this is one of those, you know, real times where like that's why when we passed our tests, you know, we had to learn about like pump and dumps and you know all these different like
Hmm.
scams and it's just like they were textbook things that happened in crypto, just
Yeah.
textbook illegal things, but because it's not a security, people were able to get away with this, you know, like
Hmm.
Elon could have never said the things he said about Dogecoin and that and anything else. You know what I mean? Like it would not have
Hmm.
if he had talked about Tesla stock that way. My God, would the SEC been on him? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and it
But
kind of
with
makes you
Doge,
realize
no
that there's a reason
rules.
why these regulations are in place for like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can understand the whole decentralization and stuff like that, but like at the same time, there is a reason why there should be a little like some checks and boundaries and stuff like that.
Absolutely. You know, I because you just start watching like especially people can purchase on leverage. You know what I mean? You can leverage up dollar like 100 to 1 leverage to, buy crypto. That certainly doesn't help the situation in an unregulated
Mhm.
market like this. Um, it's it and the fact that like there's no reserve requirements of these exchanges, obviously, and they're making out loans from customer accounts because there's nothing protecting that. There's no one regulating that and checking on that. They don't have to file or answer to anyone. Again, I am the last person to ask for government regulation on anything.
Yeah.
God,
Right.
but certainly this is it. This is like something that's needed here at this point because the con artists are running the game now.
Mhm. 'Cause nephew.
Mhm.
Yeah, because when this started out, like no one was really warning or expecting stuff like this to happen. Like
Right.
we weren't expecting exchanges to start lending out their own customers' money to a head, a trading what was Alameda, like a trading company that they're connected
Right.
to, and basically using their own crypto token as collateral, essentially printing their own money. And yeah, that was not being taught. I'm sure that was not being thought of or talked about when this was all started in 2009.
Right. No one expected this to snowball the way it did. And the fact, and like you almost can't. No, I don't want to say you can't blame them because you can absolutely blame them, but you can understand why they ran the game the way they did. It was like, well, if no one's going to stop me, and it's kind of like, well, our whole money game is essentially a Ponzi scheme at this point, anyways. Why not run my own? I'm
Yeah,
not gonna. I All because I don't like the game. All because I don't like the financial game that we live in. Doesn't mean I'm going to turn to Bernie Madoff.
yeah,
But you kind of understand where Bernie Madoff kind of gets off going like, yeah, well, if the government doesn't, why shouldn't I? And it's kind of like, well, touche. You hurt a lot of people, and that ain't right. But touche on
mhm,
your logic. I can understand it at
yeah,
least.
yeah, exactly,
Mm.
yeah.
Craziness in the world right now. So that's why I think it's just really important for people to really look at their options. There's more than just investing in Apple or Tesla stock to build wealth. There's more than just having a basket of cryptocurrencies to do that. Or I know that we're watching housing, real estate kind of on a collapse here too. I know a lot of people were trying to build their wealth that way as well. I certainly feel like property is always one of those things that like as long as you can afford it outright, you're not buying something with this hope of like moving and flipping real quick, and the math doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
Like that property makes sense too, but more than that, I think a business really is something that we've forgotten about. Can be the real way of actually surviving what we're about to go through here. I think we encourage anyone to really go out. If you have something you do that you enjoy or you're good at, start a side hustle. Just what I mean. Don't overthink it. Go out, do it, make some money, learn as you go, and then figure out the laws in game and just start
yeah,
playing it. Just start paying them.
yeah. I don't. Yeah, best thing to do is just start.
Yeah, best thing to do is just start. Just go out there, make the mistakes fast, and we'll find out from there. That's
Yeah.
that's best thing, honestly. Going out there and just attempting it has definitely been the best thing for me,
Hmm.
personally. And yeah, I think more millennials need to start looking, more middle class people, more millennials need to start looking at that as a viable option. I think through these next 6 months to a year, which I think are going to be particularly crazy. I think we are just now opening Pandora's box on the craziness that's about to come.
Hmm.
And realistically, the next 5 years, obviously, is going to be, the game of like figuring out what works, what doesn't, and how to play it. But the next 6 months to a year, I think a lot of people are going to want to start thinking about side hustle, business, write off, expenses, what I mean,
Yeah,
revenue. Just start thinking stuff like that. Because I think it's going to be a wild ride everywhere else right now.
yeah. But yeah, speaking of expenses, yeah, try to cut back on your expenses too.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
no more, yeah, cut back on expenses, try to preserve capital, try to put
If you
it
can,
like,
if you can,
yeah, if
yeah,
you can, yeah. Just so, yeah, basically
understand.
try to put all you can into the side and to figure out what your side hustle is and to doing that side hustle because,
Right.
oh, shoot.
And don't feel like you have to become, rich off of that immediately, or like, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's not working in 6 months. It's like, no, this takes
Mhm.
time. And the great
It
thing
takes
is that it's a
time.
machine. Once you build it
Yeah.
up and it starts running and working right, then you
Mhm.
just let it run. The hard part is really the
Yeah.
launching part.
Just focus on trying to at least making half a living off of it.
Right. Balance it out with the day job if you gotta,
Mhm.
I'm still I'm still doing that as well. You know what I mean? IT day, phone business, media company, all that,
Mhm.
at night. And yeah, it's a lot, but I think at this point with an inflationary environment, a deflation in stocks, bonds, anything of asset value, essentially, um, really the only way you're going to be able to keep up with the game, you're not going to be able to like make the right purchase or right trade to keep up with the game. I think it's just going to be working smarter, not harder, which I
Mhm.
think is the new side hustle business route that uh, that's all we got left, really.
Yeah.
I think that's the most positive thing we can give you. It's just like, hey man, you can start any business, anything that makes money nowadays. It's kind
Yeah.
of crazy the
There's.
amount of things make money.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh yeah. Just think about areas where people would have to cut back on. Think about how you can fill that void. Like,
Mhm.
let's say, average middle class woman's gonna have to cut back on having to go to a hairstylist or a nail
Yeah.
salon. So think about like, in home, like, like a mobile hairstylist or
Hmm.
mobile nail, nail stylist or
Yeah.
whatever they're
Yeah.
fucking
Nail
calling shit
technician or
like
stuff like
that.
that.
Nail
Yeah.
technician, thank you. Or even think about there's probably gonna be a lot of people because of the housing market thing. There are gonna be a lot of people who are gonna have to like leave their homes or abandon. So think about moving business
Yeah.
or even like a salvage business where you help it like because sometimes people just up and leave like
Yeah.
they
They just
straight up
leave
leave their
stuff.
shit there.
Yeah.
So like even the
Hmm.
salvage business where you help homeowners clean up their house for to get it ready for
Yes.
the next occupant.
Yeah. No, that's a
There's
great
there's
idea.
so much like yeah, so yeah. Basically, think about where there would be there's a possible void, and think
Hmm.
about how you can try to fill it. And
Yeah.
what's coming up, there's gonna be a lot of voids to have to fill.
Yes. I think there's going to be a lot of things in this next transition, like I said, the next 6 months to a year that we're going to go through that is going to open up opportunities that people hadn't thought of before. Just like when the pandemic started and masks became, like the hot selling item on everything. No one thought that
Yeah.
selling masks would be, but then people were really just pulling up with their van in a parking lot and selling masks out the back of them. And it was
Yeah.
making money there. It was, it was very
Yeah, man.
impressive.
I've seen people on street corners hustling packages of masks, hand
Mhm.
sanitizer,
Mhm.
and wipes. So it's like
Yep.
people like yeah, there's opportunities everywhere.
Absolutely. Yes. And it's important to start capitalizing on them. Because
Mhm.
I think there's going to be a lot of them coming up here. And like you said, keeping your expenses down, trying not to get buried in debt. You know what I mean? Stuff
Yeah.
like that leaves you available to jump on opportunities as they come, because a lot of people will want to make moves during this period of time, because a lot of stuff's going to happen and they won't be able to because they're kind of chained by these things. So I think
Yeah.
that's, do what you can to cut back in reasonable ways. You know what I mean? Like I always say, like I pretty much, not that it's not good for you anyways, but I cut out fast food because with price inflation of food, I'm like, at the price of what fast food is now, I will just go eat at home. You know what I mean? Like it is not
Mhm.
fast food. The whole allure was like it was cheap and easy. Now it's just, now it's just
Not even
quick.
really easy anymore.
Yeah, it's not even really easy, because the lines for fast food are all crazy now ever since COVID, finished there.
I've actually been
So
trying to cut back on. I use the DoorDash a lot. Like I order DoorDash a lot,
oh,
and like you got
that
to think
adds
about
up.
like
Adds
how
up.
much they fucking inflate the prices for their own food, and then
Hmm.
the delivery fees and all that stuff. Like you're basically paying about $20-$25 per meal.
Yes. You
That
start
adds up
realizing
quick,
how much you're
dude.
spending. That adds up super quick. You know what I mean? For
Mhm.
that level of convenience, which is not that good. Yeah. There are things like that need to be cut for sure.
Mhm. So I mean, for that in that case, like if you're door dashing a lot,
Hey,
just
all power
go
to
out and
you.
drive. Yeah, go out and drive and get your phone food. If you're or doing fast food a lot, find a way to. I mean, there's ways to do cheap meals from home. There's like so many ways.
Yeah,
Like freaking like recently, I bought a fucking like Smith's. They have this fucking bag of fajita beef fajita or fajita
yeah,
beef or whatever they call it. It's like a 12-ounce bag, and I think it was like $8 or something like that, $9.
yeah. Okay,
So
so
that with some rice, that'll last you a few
yeah.
days. And like, I mean, that's like, yeah, there we go. That's $20 right there for a few days worth of meals.
And I mean that's the way that people really got to think about that. Like, how you gonna make it extend? It's not
Mhm.
the same old anymore in terms of how you're gonna plan out your meals and plan out all these kind of things. It's there's gonna be a
Yeah.
lot of cuts people are made in lifestyle. It's like people aren't gonna be able to
Mhm.
go out as much now. I can't even think of like people who go like going to the movies and stuff like that. It's almost like a non-existent thing for me now with thinking about how expensive that ends up being. It's really that's the
Yeah.
real sad thing is that you do lose a lot of enjoyment, but it is unfortunate the situation.
Mhm. And the movie thing, I just go early. I go early and I have a lunch before the
Oh,
movie,
okay.
so I don't buy popcorn and shit and like pay like $20 for food.
Oh, that's pretty
And the movie
smart.
ticket, before in the morning, like 11, 10 o'clock and 11, 10 o'clock, 11, it's like under $10. So I mean,
Oh, oh, there you go.
yeah,
So there's the
or
hack
depending
right
on the
there.
theater. Yeah.
Right, right. Some of them, yeah, will have like a deal with that. No, that finding a good cheap source of entertainment so you don't have to go out. I know everyone wants to go out like on Friday night or something like that, and go buy
Mhm.
popcorn, go buy this, go buy. A trip when a trip to the theater costs you $100 in total, you're like,
Mhm.
whoo, oh boy.
Just bring your own
That-
snacks. Shit, just sneak them in. Actually, I don't think there's even a real. From what I heard, there's no real rule against bringing in your own snacks and shit like that. I don't think.
Yeah, they can't. What are they really gonna do? Like, you know what I mean? If someone opens up, like, oh, empty your pockets. I'm like, the fuck out of here. You think I got unless you think I got a gun or something? No. Like
Yeah,
you can hit me with a
exactly.
metal detector real quick, but no, I'm not emptying out my pockets for no one. Forget you.
S- Stay away from a pound bag of gummy bears, bitch.
Right. You know what I mean? It's gonna be a problem. Let's
Yeah,
go. Oh man, that was great. But yeah,
yeah,
no, that's kind of just where it kind of sits though. It's just like finding a different pace of life to kind of fit what the situation is. And I think
mhm,
I as nerve-wracking as it kind of is, it is kind of exciting because we are at the new dawn of a new era in a sense of like the world that we're entering into.
mhm.
And yeah, I think if you're ready for it, this could be the time that changes your life in the positive. And if you're not, well, you know,
I'm a little bit
tough
scared
times.
for those people.
I really am too. I really am too. And I think hopefully we can provide services that those people need as well, because unfortunately that's probably going to be the landscape of it for most people.
Mhm. Yeah,
But
and
yeah,
like, and it's weird. Like you don't realize how much of the population are a part of that percentage of people who are gonna be caught up in that. Because like, I mean, you think like I said, like you get caught up in your own bubble. You keep thinking, you know, oh, there are a lot more people who are awake to this and what's going on and are getting ready for this. But it's like, no, a lot of people are unaware, like of well,
yeah,
they can feel the crunch, they can feel the squeeze, but like they're unaware of
mhm,
like just what
what's
direction we
happening?
truly are
Yeah,
heading and what's going to happen and how
I don't think
hard
they understand the
we're going to
long-term
possibly fall.
effects.
Mhm,
Right. And that this is really like because you and I have been harping on about this since the economy was shut down in 2020. And
mhm,
this is almost the exact ripple effect that a lot of us were saying was going to happen from this giant disruption that we all went through. And I think we're watching it unfold around. I mean, I know in my area, I'm just seeing more and more desolation, in the areas around me, more and more homeless population growing, more struggle in general life for sure. And it's just
yeah,
it's very disheartening, you know what I mean? Because you don't want to get to zero because it's hard. When you're buried, it's hard to get yourself out. And once you hit nothing, I mean, unless someone gives you a hand up, there's really very little
it's
ways out.
impossible
It
because
is near impossible. Yes.
you're expected to have certain things in order to get employment. Like you're expected to have
Hmm.
an address, expected to have clean clothes when you apply and go for interviews. But like
Exactly.
when you're homeless, it's impossible to get those things.
Exactly. You know what I mean? You're square one. You can't even get your foot in the door. You know what I mean? There's just no way.
Yeah.
I just don't want to see anyone turned like life turned to that because they weren't able to, they enjoyed a normal style of life and they didn't pivot soon enough.
Mm.
I think a lot of people are burying their heads in the sand about this around them too. And they
Yeah,
just don't want to wake up to it. And when it's at their door, and unfortunately, when it's at your door, that is not the point to be like, oh, what do I need to do to fix this now? It's like, oh, too late.
it's a little too late for that.
A little too late for that.
Mhm.
Yeah. But I think that's going to be it here because, people really have thought like there's just going to be something else that runs up and that's how they're going to get rich. Everyone's going to do, the Cantillon effect. It's finally wearing off. The drug is wearing off on people, and the
Mhm.
reality setting in. And I think the rehab is entrepreneurship from
Yeah,
all this.
I don't know if the joke's
Really,
wearing off yet. There's still you still have people believing that the Fed's going to pivot.
right? Exactly.
Like, I mean, if inflation still went up, but like people are like, oh, it wasn't as bad as we thought, so they have to pivot. And it's like, no, they
Mm-hmm.
laid out what they'd have to see in order to actually think about slowing down. Like they've laid
Yeah.
it out so many times to people, and they're like, no.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but the thing is, people aren't concerned about the economy; they're concerned about the market and their portfolios. That's why. And I think the
Yeah.
Fed is concerned about everybody else's portfolio, but it's like they're not concerned
Mm-hmm.
about your portfolio. They're
They
not.
are not.
They're not concerned. They're not even concerned about institutional investors' portfolios, and
They are
those are the
not.
people they
No.
have to answer to.
Right. Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
mhm,
People's 401ks, retirement funds get wiped out real fast here. You know what I mean? Like, and they don't realize that, there's no one there to protect them on this. Just like in 19, I think this is it though. I think we're reaching our 1930, 1929, moment basically, where
mhm,
we watch the deflationary spiral begin here. And crypto, I think, was the
the
beginning of
catalyst.
that. The catalyst. Yeah, absolutely. It's like, because once one thing starts burning up on fire, it's a contagion.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to happen next year. I think that's what we're going to, I think this week will be very interesting to watch in the markets, honestly. After seeing how crazy last week was, I think this week will be very interesting to watch in the markets.
Yields have been rising.
Yeah. So I know that the 10-year year have been going up like a ton of basis points. Like the swings have been insane. I have been listening to Gregory Menarino talk about that. I have been paying a lot of attention recently to that personally, but I've been hearing that the yields have been swinging like significant amount of basis points, like
Mhm.
unprecedented amount of basis points, basically.
Oh yeah. Like for a while, dude, it was going up like 10, 20 basis points a day.
Mm,
And like actually recently it went down about so it went down about like 20, 30 basis points recently. So like
mm,
it was recently at 4.2, almost 4.3. Now it's like
right.
3.8, 3.9.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So it went
That like
down below that four.
yeah, that happened around election time when it started going down.
Makes sense.
Mhm. Or
Man.
no, was it election time? It was either election time or when that CPI report came out last week. One of the two.
Mm,
And
yeah,
which
because
was
I
around
believe,
lunchtime, but still.
right. So it's all a blur at this point. You know what I mean? Yeah, I believe that was on Tuesday, was the midterms.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, good distraction point for everyone of that, what's happening there. Yeah, I think it's also kind of crazy. That's also seems like why the average person may not even fully understand what's happening right now in the markets, especially with the crypto market, because like the election cycle is going on right now. So many people are so fully caught up in that nonsense that they're not even aware of what's happening outside of it right now.
Mhm. Yeah. They're still kind of still caught up in it. Well, no, now it just ended because now
All the
all
votes
the
are in, I
votes are
believe.
in.
Yeah,
Although, okay, so how did California already declare winners when only 45% reported?
it's
What the fuck, dude?
California. Yeah, I don't even question what happens in the state anymore. I just kind of accepted it's, the Republic. Oh
But,
God.
but yeah, either way, like yeah, this election was like a hell of a distraction because there's a lot of stuff going on
Hmm.
like during that time. So like yeah.
Honestly, yeah, it did feel like a great cover story while while the financial markets are melting down in multiple fronts
Yeah,
right now. Yeah.
because the story about FTX's balance sheet, like that came out during like the when all when midterms were still at their like I guess peak talking point or peak not popularity, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I think it came out just a week before the midterm election, like the midterm voting. So and like I didn't even hear about it until like I didn't hear about anything about FTX until after midterms ended.
Yeah. Honestly, I really hadn't either. Not until probably about Wednesday or so is when I started really hearing about this story.
Mhm. Yeah,
Sounds about right.
that's when I saw that headline. Tom Brady loses like 600 million in his investment in FTX. I'm like, what the fuck just happened? And then
Right.
like the next
Exactly.
morning, I'm hearing about everything. Like, whoa, what is going on here?
Going on.
And I'm
Yeah.
seeing crypto tank, and then it's like, whoa.
Mm. It was wild how quickly that happened too. I was just like, wait, it's at what? And I
Mhm.
mean, like, 15-9. And like,
Yeah.
seriously, like as this contagion spreads, who knows what we could drop down to, like, because I keep saying to people, I have little to no faith that any other exchange is any better, really.
Mhm.
Maybe FTX was more irresponsible than everyone else, but I have trouble believing any of them are truly fully solvent, at all.
No, like I mean, a lot of them the FTX bailed out. Like
Hmm.
BlockFi got bailed
Yeah,
out by
exactly.
them, and
Yeah.
like, dude. So it's like, and who
Hmm.
knows, like, how many exchanges or whatever Binance is bailed out, and who
Hmm.
knows, like, how solvent or insolvent Binance may truly be.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, because if FTX was doing that, who's to say that Binance wasn't doing that either? Like
Right.
what FTX
Same
did.
thing. And you have to imagine too, with the drop in Bitcoin recently too, how many people is that margin called? You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, you know what I mean? Think of the ripple wave that also has in the market as well too. As you start dropping through more and more, a lot of these exchanges who have people who are purchasing on leverage. I mean, just like I said, contagion effect just keeps spreading like wildfire.
Mhm. Worse, 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 worse. Next thing you know, everything's burnt to the ground and nothing exists anymore.
Exactly. You got to rebuild from the rubble, man. I'm telling you, that's what our generation really is going to be meant for here, and that's what we're really encouraging a lot, because I think that's what our main demographic. If people older, younger want to listen to us, that's great. I think a lot of
Mhm.
our generation are probably going to be listening to us on this, and I really just like want to tell you, like, hey, I know a paradigm shift is crazy, but it's also exciting, because you know what, you get to try something. You don't have to do the old ways that didn't make sense anymore, or that you know what I mean, like that didn't seem to like really have an ability to get into, because they were just like, it was already controlled by people. Now a new opportunity to jump on what I think, whatever the new economy will be, what that will be, who knows, but this is a great time, honestly. And
Yeah.
if you're optimistic about actually going out there and build.
Actually, yeah, it will be interesting to see because like with the whole CBDC thing, it's like we're
Mhm.
still trying to figure out how that's gonna work. Because like someone brought up the point, like if that was really coming, like if that was really coming, so if that was really gonna happen, so no one could hide their money, like why would billionaires allow that to happen?
Right. You know what I mean? Like that's a big thing. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
wonder if they're going to be able to have, I really wonder, because it seems to me there's probably going to be something about, like, there's going to be another way to funnel money out of this. Like if there is a central bank
Mhm.
digital currency, there's going to be some way of moving money through some. Now you would think it'd be some sort of crypto. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that would be how you would store
Well,
some of the wealth to move it through, but who
who knows
knows
how to use
now?
crypto?
Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's really hard to say, what's going to happen there.
Yeah, I almost feel like there's gonna be something where it's like a, a tiered system where CBDC is purely for like well, it's gonna start
Right.
out for people in welfare and stuff like that, and eventually
Mhm.
like mainly for lower class and lower middle class people sort of and then
Right.
like and the rest of the people are able to still stick with cash and shit like that or not cash but
Right.
like you know yeah
Yeah. Just, I mean, it will be
something related
called
to
cash,
cash.
but it's not technically the Fed coin or,
Yeah.
whatever it is, kind of a thing. And then
Hmm.
yeah, it will slowly come in. That I think that's probably it. Honestly, it'll probably start with a welfare system to bring it in, and
Hmm.
then which the more the middle class that falls off into poverty, that expands the base of the Fed coin,
Hmm.
and giving them control of the currency at that point. And then from there, it just starts to enter into the economy more and more until it becomes, if it becomes like your normal legal tender, if businesses start accepting it, people will adapt to it naturally. And I mean, I think that that's going to be it. It's like people don't it's just like with the internet, we gave so easily all of our freedoms and personal information and data in
Hmm.
like a total heartbeat, no thought about it, because it was convenient, because of
Hmm.
the convenience and entertainment and whatnot we got from the internet. That's, I could see us turning to a central bank digital currency just as easily if
Yeah.
it's made that easy for people.
Yeah. In that case, the internet's kind of like the playbook for it.
I, you know, just kind of saying, we all know we're being monitored, and all of our data is being collected, and they were constantly watched by whatever entity, but we just kind of carry on our day like we're not. So that's
Yeah.
interesting.
I know,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. Be like
Yeah, I
that.
know this conversation is being watched, but pretending that's not being done, you know.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
we make jokes about our FBI agent, you know what I mean, like oh, what my FBI agent sees while I'm like scrolling my phone on memes or something like that, like, you know what I mean, that's
That's
how
how
normal
normalized
it
it's
is.
gotten.
That's crazy. That's how we're going to be with our money too, is like when I have to go through like 3 different channels to exchange my Fed coin to be able to buy the thing I actually want, it's going to be that normal. It's going to be
Hmm.
that normal.
Oh, it's a
you
damn shame.
you Yeah, man. All I know is I'm not eating Z bugs. I refuse to eat Z bugs. I don't care how economic it is.
No, I just how they got like, oh gosh, that's the one thing. Like, people don't realize how much that's being. Well, it's not being pushed a lot, but like
Mhm.
that's starting to get pushed a bit. Like very, very subtly, but like it's getting pushed.
Yeah, it's kind of gained some traction. They're actually using it as a base in a lot of processed foods.
Now I still want to eat
Yeah, I know, right now. Because man, I am not the nutritional facts kind of guy. I'm not the guy to look at the back of the bag and look at the ingredients. I'm terrible at that kind of stuff. So I'm like, oh, does it taste good? Just shovel in my mouth. Crickets.
And plus,
I can't
you
believe
know,
this.
you know they're gonna come up with some like stupid scientific names that, so you won't know what it actually
Yeah, you
is.
won't know. I won't know what I'm actually looking at or
Yeah.
eating. Yeah, that totally sounds about right. Oh, that's terrible. All I can say is, you don't got to be Liver King, but go out there and eat some real food, people. You
Yeah.
got to spend money on food. Go eat some real food.
Hmm. Some meat.
Yes,
If you're not allergic to it,
there's
a
too.
lot of meat.
A lot of meat, fruit, vegetables, whatever it is. Just try and eat some real food. That's all. That's all. Because they're gonna sneak Z bugs into the food, into the subsidized food for people. I bet. If there's a lot of people in poverty, and like say you get like a form of welfare from a central bank digital currency, I imagine the quality of food they'll let you buy with that will be made with Z bugs. That's all I'm saying.
I will say this though, I'll probably eat bugs before I eat Beyond Meat.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't really like to be honest. It's like
I haven't
probably.
tried any of that like Beyond Meat or Impossible Meat or whatever yet, because like
Mm,
I haven't really heard like I've had friends try it, but they said like it's like like they don't see the appeal of it. They don't know why, like how people fall for it.
I
Like it does
get
not taste like a real burger.
right. It's to
That's
me,
what they
it's
say.
like one of those things. Yeah, if you're already like a vegan or something like that, and you haven't had a
Hmm.
burger in like years, and you have that, you're like, oh, this tastes just like a burger because it's been so long for you. I could understand
Yeah.
you,
Okay.
that person,
Yeah.
see, but like you're gonna have to eat In and Out to go eat me the Beyond Burger. I'm just like,
Hmm.
get out of here, get out of
Yeah.
here with all
Yeah.
that. Give me a cow, god damn it.
Hmm. I'll
Uh,
go get it myself. I'll cut it up for you
yeah,
and all that.
same, man. That I think that's really the future for a lot of people right now. It's my trainer is actually is moving away right now to Pennsylvania. He bought a few
Oh,
acres of land. And I think he's gonna go homestead. And I was like, man, you need to go like be a rancher and like just start raising your own cattle and growing your own, vegetables and stuff. And
that's
we were kind of
probably
talking
the
about
most
that.
ideal thing because before
Hmm.
the whole middle class thing, like think about how many families own farms and were raising their own livestock and
Right.
crops and stuff like that, and like living off their own stuff. Like basically, like I feel like that's actually there's been a rise in that lately too. Like the
Oh,
whole homesteading
absolutely.
thing, dude. And I can understand why. Like being able, like you're in total control of what you're eating, what goes in your food, and
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. We realize how unhealthy we are from uh I actually was listening to a podcast with Carnivore MD, who's becoming very popular right now.
Mhm.
It talks about like a all meat diet and whatnot, basically with some simple carbs like fruits and whatnot mixed in.
Yeah,
Um and he what was the point I was trying to make with that? Because I lost my train of thought on that because you mentioned something. I remember he was talking about that with the Carnivore MD, and I can't remember what point I was trying to make now. Hmm, it's fine. If it comes back to me, it comes back to me. It's fine. It's
yeah,
it's not a
is
big deal. That's not what this
okay.
podcast is, anyways. But
Yeah,
yeah, but I think that's really it, though. I think it's just I want to be able. Quality of life is being lost, and seed oil, right? No, that was it. Seed oil is actually how bad it is for you, whatnot. And a lot of the
mhm,
processed food, and a lot of the foods that we eat, out at restaurants and whatnot, it doesn't matter how healthy a food out is. You know what I mean? It's still made a certain way because a restaurant doesn't cook like you do at home because
mhm.
they have certain requirements, and that's like what causes a lot of the problems in people. So I think really having your own food source is something that's gonna I think it's gonna be seen as a form of wealth in the upcoming years here. I think that really
Oh
it's
yeah.
gonna become more normalized amongst us.
I mean, if you're growing your own food, like that's one less thing you have to worry about putting money into.
Right, exactly.
'Cause I mean, the whole fucking like the whole grocery store thing. That's also in its infancy in a sense. Like like I mean, they had general stores and stuff like that, but
Mhm.
like the whole not ever having to like hunt for your food or grow your own food thing is
Yeah,
fairly new.
very new. And I think it was like on average, grocery stores have enough food for like 3 or 4 days on hand, essentially.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. You know what I mean? It's not like they have a whole back like with like more stuff in it. Like they have what's out, they have what comes in on
Mhm.
trucks. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So if that runs out, like with the diesel shortage that we're currently in right now,
Something worse
you
too.
know, well, I wouldn't be surprised to see empty shelves in grocery stores again. Once again, 6 months to a year. I really think it's the time frame is where we're going to start seeing all that play out here.
Mhm. Yeah, a lot of people think like because like we keep hearing more like giving warnings and hearing warnings about it. And people are like, well, it hasn't happened yet. I'm like, well, it's not going to happen tomorrow. This
Yeah,
stuff takes time.
it
Like what
will
you're seeing now
happen.
is going to lead up to something that's going to lead up what's going to happen
Hmm.
in 6 months from now, 12 months from now, 18 months from now, whatever.
Right. People are burying their head in the sand about it. Like we were saying earlier, it's just like
Mhm.
they don't want to acknowledge it until it's like at their doorstep. And you're like, oh, wow, you were right. This is here now. What should I do? And it's like, well, if you can go back in time and start 6 months ago, that would be great.
Mhm.
If you can't do that, I guess you're going to scramble for whatever you can figure out right now.
Yeah.
Something tells me you're probably going to lose a portion of quality of life in that. You know,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, I think that's a lot of what we want to cover here today. We just want to really talk to people about like, business being a real, I think the best option for the average person today. Try to get a side hustle off the ground, start a business. There's nothing wrong with investing. If you can keep your expenses low and your debt low, and then you have some money left over, investing is great. There's nothing wrong with that. But relying that as your get rich quick scheme or as your way out of poverty is just I don't think that's going to be it in these upcoming years here. I think it's going to be a very different game that we play, and I think that's why we want to just really emphasize, look into seeing what you can get off the ground and see if you can make your life a write-off. I think that sounds even better than being rich.
Yeah.
Yes.
Try to minimize the biggest expense that you'll ever have in your life.
Exactly. All right. Well, on that, once again, my name is John, my partner Steven. This is the Middle Class Macro Podcast. Thank you for everyone who has listened to us up now. And please feel free to like, subscribe, reshare this video out. We'd love to hear back from you. Please feel free to leave a comment down below. And yeah, hope to catch you again soon.
Sweet.